Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome to... Hi, thank you, Sister Nandi. Welcome to Hartford Public Library. My name is Jeff Mainville, and I would like to welcome you all to this afternoon's celebration, Hartford Loves Poetry. We'd like to thank our partner in this program, the City of Hartford Marketing, Events, and Cultural Affairs Department, and especially Miss Christina Newman-Scott for all of her hard work with this fabulous program. Yes. Please visit Hartford Public Library's website at www.hplct.org to stay current on all of the wonderful events we have coming here this summer. At this time, I'd like to introduce my favorite poet and tonight's Hartford Loves Poetry coordinator. I was just upstairs whittling down her list of accomplishments into a shorter piece, but it took some time. Bessie Reyna is the author of 2 bilingual books of poetry, The Battlefield of Your Body and Memoirs of the Unfaithful Lover. And her poetry can be found in numerous anthologies, including El Coro, a chorus of Latino and Latina poetry, and, in other words, literature by Latinas of the United States. Born in Cuba and raised in Panama, Bessie is a graduate of the Mount Holyoke College and earned her master's and law degrees from the University of Connecticut. For 9 years, she was a monthly opinion columnist for the Hartford Courant and was a frequent contributor to Northeast, the Sunday magazine of the Hartford Courant. Bessie's numerous awards, and they are many, include the first prize in the Joseph E. Brodine Poetry Competition and Artist Award grants from the Connecticut Commission on Culture and Tourism, as well as the Greater Hartford Arts Council. She is the recipient of Connecticut Center for the Book Lifetime Achievement in Service to the Literary Community Award in 2009, the American Association of Hispanics in Higher Education Outstanding Latina in the Literary Arts and Publications Award, the Pioneer Award at the inaugural Diversity Awards presented by the Vice Provost for Multicultural and International Affairs at the University of Connecticut in 2006, a Living Legend Award from St. Joseph College Department of Social Work, and the One Woman Makes a Difference Award from the Connecticut Women's Education and Legal Fund in 2007. In 2001, she was named Latina Citizen of the Year by the State of Connecticut Latino and Puerto Rican Affairs Commission, and in 2012, she was one of 10 women honored by the Connecticut Women's Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me with a roaring round of applause for Miss Bessie Reyna.
I think I'm going to hire him. Before I introduce the program, I would like to introduce one of the people who made this possible, and she's here with her beautiful daughter, Kendall. Her name is Christina Newman-Scott. She's the Director of Marketing for the City of Hartford and Cultural Affairs. Christina and I met in September. She said, I want to talk to you about poetry, and that's how this whole thing happened. That's how it started. So I really feel that I want all of you to welcome Christina. This wouldn't have happened without her. So Christina, come up here. Kendall, come with me, come with me.
I'm about to share more than I was planning. Hello, thank you. This has been such a wonderful experience and a tremendous pleasure for me because I've been a long-time fan of Bessie Reyna. And it's funny, when I just got my position when I was just hired 2 years ago, Bessie wrote me the first email I ever received from anybody. I don't know how Bessie found it because it wasn't even out yet, so you're good. She was like, I really want to do a poetry program in the city of Hartford, and I want to talk to you about that. That was March 12th, 2012. In any event, this has been wonderful, and the city of Hartford, as you all probably know, we have 70 languages, and in our little 18 square mile city, that's pretty tremendous, and this is just the beginning of exploring and celebrating all the cultures that we have here, and I'm forcing Bessie to do this again next year. And, we're committed to making this an annual event. She's saying yes, really. She wants to do it again. So thank you all for your support. Thank you for coming out to celebrate with us on this final day. You've done an amazing job. I don't know how. You're like a one-woman show. So my hat's off to you, Bessie. Thank you. Thank you all.
You want to say goodbye? Bye. There she goes. Bye. The next generation of poets. Thank you so much. I don't know what to say. Before I start, I need to thank so many people who helped me put this together, because without them, I wouldn't have the access to the many immigrant communities. So my special thanks, they are in the program, but I want to read it because I want them to be recorded. For invaluable help in reaching out to immigrant communities in Connecticut, heartfelt thanks to Dr. William Howe, Chair of Connecticut Asian Pacific American Affairs Commission, Lynn Williamson, the Director of Connecticut Cultural Heritage Arts Program for the Institute of Community Research, Dr. Shamala Rahman, Director of International Studies at the University of St. Joseph, and Patricia Porlet, who's here with us, Administrative Coordinator of the Department of Modern and Classical Languages at UConn. I want to thank in particular Susan Holmes, my partner, because on the way here, I kept saying all the things she has done for me during this, and she's my computer techie person, the poet, poster designer, driver, and I'm calling her my in-house Prozac. So thanks so much, Susan. And also to Jane Rainwater, who designed the lovely program that you have, the marketing, events, and cultural affairs of the city of Hartford, and Brenda Miller and Jeff and the staff of the Hartford Library who has been involved with this program from the beginning. And we never had a fight. I am shocked. If you know me, you know how quickly my temper is. But my special gratitude goes to all of you community participants who have donated your time, and you are so generous and willing to share your poems from your countries that will make today's program. Thank you so much. I can thank you enough in a million languages if I knew them. I'm going to start this program with a poem by a wonderful poet called Marie Ponsot. Do you know her? She is bilingual. She's a translator, and she has a poem that I really feel describes what some of us who are bilingual live with. So I thought in her honor and in the honor of all of you, I would start the program with this poem. It's called Bilingual. Languages, before they are words or systems, are persons speaking and persons spoken to. The bilingual cannot, for example, convey in English, au placard la lavande fait bien blanchir les langes. There is no American woman to whom it could be said. The pain of having two languages comes from a straining between them in the mind, from a need to keep them separate and a desire, forbidden, dangerous, to marry them, like twins who safely intertwined by each other's presence stress their differences, and who, when absent, cannot but represent longing for union of the purest kind. The two tongues must be untrue to each other. Their speaker always has one mute mouth kept pressed closed against the barrier and already possessed of other words to word each word better than the speaking one is deaf to. Dreams give relief but no rest. Both babble there, each other's audience, making love eloquent at last, coupling with the rich attention. Grand passion gives in slowness to the body of the lovers. There the American answers with pleasure, I love the smell of lavender. So that's Marie's poem. I would like to call someone who has been very instrumental in the cultural life of Connecticut, and that is An Ming Trunkses. She will be our first reader, and An Ming was the director of the Connecticut Commission on the Arts when we used to have a Commission on the Arts, and now we have a mix of something. So, An Ming, would you come up? No, come up. Thank you. Yes, you want to read there? Okay, sorry.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hi, it was so great to see you.
Let me make sure that everybody...
It's great to see so many friends here. First, I do want to congratulate Bessie for organizing this incredible Hartford Loves Poetry Festival and for inviting me to participate in the sort of final community celebration. The poem I'm going to read today is from the famous anthology of poetry called the 300 Tang Poems, 唐诗300首, which is what it's called in Chinese, that have been used to teach reading and writing in Chinese for over the centuries. I am going to read it in Mandarin, and that's the standard dialect. Now, I think most of you know that there are many, many spoken Chinese dialects, and you know them pretty much in relation to Chinese cuisine, right? Like Cantonese, Shanghainese, Hunanese, Taiwanese, there's Hakka, and all of them sound different, but Mandarin is the standard dialect, and they all share the same common written language. And it's not uncommon for a Chinese to know more than one dialect, like the one that is spoken at home, the one that is taught in schools, and then the one that is spoken by friends that you meet in schools. Now, the 300 Tang poems come from the Tang Dynasty, which was really known as the golden period of poetry. And there were roughly about 50,000 poems that came down over the 3 centuries, which spanned from 618 to 907, and that were handed down and written by over 2,000 poets. And almost every single ruler during the years that spanned the dynasty was a lover and patron of poetry. And writing poetry was a requirement for civil service exam. That was one of the reasons why poetry was so prominent. And ordinary people who were not already part of the ruling elite or the noble class had to take the exam in order to become a government official or to get an official promotion. But beyond the examination system, the writing of poetry was actually a feature of everyday social life in China. And everybody who could read or write composed poetry. When you went to visit a friend, you would bring a poem. You wrote poetry when you went to parties. And when a friend was leaving for a trip, you would see your friend off by organizing a sort of banquet where the major primary activity was writing poetry. Now, poetry banquets, that's actually another idea for you.
I love food. I'll take that one.
Yeah, right. But where the primary activity was actually writing poetry. Right?
Okay,
yeah.
you organize that one.
All right, now get down to the poems, right? So the length of Tang poems was written either 4, 8, or 12 lines, and each line was limited to either 5 or 7 characters. And the poem I'm going to read is an 8-line poem, 5-character verse. Okay, I'm going to read you actually the first line to show you the 5 characters, and then I'll read the whole poem again, and I'll translate it in English. This was written by a poet whose name was Zhang Jiuling, and he was actually a very famous minister, chancellor during his period, but most noted for his superior literary skills. And 5 of his poems were selected for the 300 poems. So, the poem is in Chinese, his name, Gan Yu, written by Zhang Jiuling. I'm going to read you the first line. 兰叶春未蕊, there are your 5 characters, right? Okay, I'm going to start again. 兰叶春未蕊, 桂华秋皎洁, 欣欣此生衣, 自而为嫁节，谁至灵气者？文凤作相约，草木有本心，何求美人者？ And the translation is, It's Orchid and Orange is the title of the poem. Tender orchid leaves in spring, and cinnamon blossoms bright in autumn, are as self-contained as life is, which conforms them to the seasons. Yet, why will you think that a forest hermit, allured by sweet winds and contented with beauty, would no more ask to be transplanted than would any other natural flower?
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. That's your water. Thank you. Thank you. Can I say shishi?
谢谢.
Very good. Wow, yeah. 谢谢. I just learned to say thank you in Chinese. All right. Thank you so much, Anming. I know that some of you, because it's a day before Easter, you have to leave early. So I am going to call my friend Esther McCune to please come and read for us. We met while I was doing a poetry workshop for the Hartford Library some years ago. And I have to say that this extraordinary woman has become such a strong supporter of poetry and poets in Connecticut. It's a real pleasure for me to introduce her to you and have her hear what she has to say about the poem she selected. Thank you, Esther.
I don't want you to miss one word of this poem, so can you hear me way in the back? Good.
Yeah? Okay.
I'm going to read you a poem called Perdidamente, which is a poem about being hopelessly in love, by Floribel Espanza. Now, Floribel was an educated woman. She was a writer of poetry and short stories and had a law degree, as you do. But she angered the scholars who didn't like her very much because at that time, at the turn of the century, women were supposed to know their place. They were to be quiet, submissive, and she really angered scholars when she began her poem, Perdidamente, with Ser poeta e ser mais alto e ser melhor do que os homens. To be a poet is to be taller and larger than men. Scholars further dismissed her because she wrote about love. Then one day, an Italian professor at the esteemed University of Coimbra in Portugal decided to look into her work because, since he was Italian, he too believed in love. He dug out some of her books and found that they were meritable, they were beautiful, and he translated 3 of them into Italian, sent them into Italy, where they became very popular. And the Portuguese said, wait, espera, she's one of us. And they began to publish her books. Now, some of the scholars were still unhappy with her because they said, it's as though she is always drowning in love. But the people understood, and they loved what she wrote because they understood what it was like to be hopelessly in love. It was having 1,000 desires for splendor, et terre de mille désirs de splendor. You do not even know what you want, et non saber ce que c'est déjà. It is to be hungry, foam, and thirsty, say they, thirsty of infinity. It is to pull the world, e condensare il mundo, into one lonely cry, num so grito. Her lover is her soul, her blood, her life, alma, sangue e vida. And she plans to tell her love, singing it to everyone, e deselo cantado a toda gente. Now, my daughters are very much interested in what I'm doing today, and to help me out, they sent me a link to Perdidamente in song. And there it was, sung at a rock concert with thousands and thousands of people in Rio de Janeiro. And the man is singing with a very beautiful voice, and the band is playing. And then the music stops just before the last 3 lines. The singer stops singing, the band doesn't play, and there's silence reigning over this immense crowd. Then the singer smiles, nods to the audience, and the audience sings the last 3 lines over and over and over. They knew the words by heart because the words were in their heart. And that was only a fitting beginning to the poem, whatever it was.
You're hitting the microphone.
Oh, I am?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I meant to do that.
Let me dress you
All
up.
right. Actually, I meant to do this. I've got to tell you a little bit about this. When I was 99 pounds, this was part of an entire outfit, and all I could salvage was 2 scarves, which I sewed together to make a scarf. Okay.
It's very lovely.
Perdidamente by Floribela Spanza. Ser poeta é ser mais alto, é ser mais maior do que os homens. Moder com quem beija, é ser mendigo e dar como quem seja, rei do reino, da quem idealador. É ter do 1000 desejos o esplendor, e não saber sequer se desejar. E ter está dentro astro com flameja, a star which is flaming. E ter garras e asas de candor. E ter fome, e ter sede de infinito. Por elmo as manhas de ouro e de cetim, e de condensar o mundo num só grito. E a amate assim pedidamente, e a seres alma, e sangue, e vida em mim, e díselo cantado a toda gente. Obrigada.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. That was really good. You have to send me the link. I want to see that video.
Okay, I will.
Yeah. I'm going to send that video to everybody who wants it. Thank you so much, Esther. I know that now you have to drive to Boston, so. You are? Okay. She just told me that, so I would call her right away, and she wouldn't have to be nervous. I have 2 readers now, Bettina Vierek, Betty to most of us, and her partner, Donna Fletcher, and they have done something that means so much to me. They have worked, Betty has translated Donna's poems from English to German so they could read it together and be here together today, and it really means, it's a great gift that you're giving all of us. So please welcome them. Bettina Vierek and Donna Fletcher. Thank you. And she's all injured like a little bird and everything.
It's a good place to store poetry. There is one thing I would like to share that I didn't expect to today. I wrote a haiku that just took first prize in the International 2014 Under the Basho contest. And I want all of you who write poems to know that it also carried a monetary prize of $500. So keep writing. And this is the poem, Late Winter, the dragonfly world of a snowflake. Thank you. And now with the program. I want to thank the Hartford Public Library and Bessie Rania and all the community poets and lovers of poetry, and a special thanks to Bettina Firek, my partner, who is not only multilingual, but is a critical reader of poetry. I'm fortunate that she liked the 3 poems that I wrote enough to translate them into her native German language. Ms. Firek administers to the doctoral program in psychology and teaches psychology at the University of Hartford. The first poem that I will read in English and will alternate from English to German is, it's not about, it actually was an attempt to write poetry that would hold, extract light from darkness, to accompany and give energy to the people who gathered at Liberty Square in Manhattan's financial district on September 17, 2011, to occupy Wall Street and safeguard this daily process we call democracy. This poem is part of the Occupy Wall Street Poetry Anthology. Poetry was a major vehicle for the movement in 2011, and the 1,000-page plus poetry anthology is evidence of that, and I urge you to find it and read it. This poem occupies page 415 in the anthology. The lit match sputters in. The lit match sputters in dark water, long enough to hear stone move.
Das leuchtende Streichholz stottert im. Das leuchtende Streichholz stottert im dunklen Wasser, lange genug, um die Bewegung der Steine zu hören.
The matter of poetry. We are walking within a slow, dark river among a calendar of wide stones, white with sun standing up like sound. We want them to say hello. We want them to name us too. In our anonymous solitude, we call out, look at me. We call this God. We say, we are walking with the great gypsum eye who speaks with stones.
Die Frage der Poesie. Wir gehen in einem langsamen, dunklen Fluss, inmitten eines Kalenders mit breiten Steinen, weiß, mit der Sonne aufstehend wie Klang. Wir wollen, dass sie uns grüßen, wir wollen, dass sie uns benennen. In unserer anonymen Einsamkeit rufen wir hinaus. Schau mich an, wir nennen dies Gott, sagen wir. Wir gehen mit dem großen, gipsartigen Auge, das mit den Steinen spricht.
And the final poem is called Speechless. Speechless, not wordless, for our presence in this one life. Dignity, who speaks of it anymore? Yet the poet who left home at a very young age took a blank book, a bow and arrow, Aleph, breath of ages coming through, rotted teeth, those crowded, homeless. In a search for bread, the poet stops to lift the words.
Sprachlos, sprachlos, nicht wortlos, unsere Gegenwart in diesem einen Leben. Wer spricht noch davon? Nur der Dichter, der seine Heimat in so jungen Jahren verließ. nahm ein unbeschriebenes Buch, Bogen und Pfeil mit. Aleph, Atem der Geschichte kommt durch, verrottete Zähne, diese drängenden Obdachlosen. Auf der Suche nach Brot hält der Dichter, um die Worte zu heben.
Thank you so much. What a treat. And how wonderful that you were able to collaborate together to do this. Poet Mark Doty has said in an interview something that my friend Kendall doesn't feel well. He has said that in an interview with Bill Moyers, that the great power of poetry is the preservative, the ability to take a moment in time and make an attempt to hold it. And I have always thought that, for me, that is one of the best descriptions of what poetry does. It's like you have a camera, you take a picture, but it's a picture in words. So I want to thank all of you for all the pictures in words that you're giving us today. The next reader I'm going to call is Jessie Marie, and Jessie, please forgive my how I say your name, Jessie Marie Kabunpurat. And she is going to be reading in Malayalam. And I'd like her, before she reads, to tell us a little bit about her country and her language.
So I'm going to be reciting a poem written by Arundhati Roy. She's a Indian novelist and activist known for her writing God of Small Things. She actually was raised in Kerala, which is a state found in South India. So the piece that I'm going to be reciting is, the language is called Malayalam, and the piece is taken from The Cost of Living, which is another one of her works. It's called Marga Dirikanam. Snehikyanadana, Snehikyabrandana, Urikulum Namade, Nisarata, Marga Dirikanam. Jividatale, Asapyamaya, Asamanatayam, Akramanatayam, Namal, Anagirikirda. Etum, Dukagaramaya Salangalam, Sandosham, Terga. Oli Salatam, Soundaryam, Terga. Uriculum, Lalithamaya Karingal, Kutakarkageo, Lalithamaya Karingal, Veldakageo, Chairita. Adigartekal, Shakti Behumanikiga. Elatlum, Ubriai, Kanaga, Manslakan, Shramikaga. Uriculum, Agaletekya, Nokarda. Inna Matramalla, Uriculum, Markarda. Now we'll recite it in English. Never to forget, to love, to be loved, to never forget your own insignificance, to never get used to the unspeakable violence and the vulgar disparity of life around you, to seek joy in the saddest places, to pursue beauty to its lair, to never simplify what is complicated or complicate what is simple, to respect strength, never power, above all, to watch, to try and understand, to never look away, and never, never to forget.
Before you go, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about your language, because it's not. When I first saw it, I thought maybe Malaysian, but then you said, no, it's from India. So would you explain a little bit for us about your language?
Well, it's spoken in the southern part of India called Kerala. There's many different dialects in India itself, so this is one of many languages spoken there.
And is poetry something that you do normally in your town or in your villages?
It's pretty popular in the villages there. Yes, they do. They do a lot of writing there as well. Yeah.
No, what about the poem that you read for us? That's from Roy, who's a very well-known writer.
Yeah,
Now, is she from your area of India also?
she actually was raised and grew up in Kerala too, so that
Yes.
was one of the reasons why I selected her poem. She's famous for her book, God of Small Things.
Yes,
And then this was one of the other works that she had, Cost of Living.
yes.
So I took the writing from her, from that book of hers as well.
I really like her essays too.
Yeah,
She's so political.
she's very
Thank you
good.
so much for being with us
You're
today.
welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me.
I have so many names here. Okay. I know that some people have to leave a little earlier. So, Nina, you and your mom ready? We have another duet, another poetry duet, and this is really, really special because when I invited Nina and she saw that Donna and Betty were going to read, she said, "Can I bring my mom?" And I said, "Of course." So, thank you so much. What a pleasure to have you here. So, Nina and her mom are going to be, her mom is going to read in Ukrainian and Nina's going to read in English. Do you want to read from here and she can read from there? How do you want to do?
Well, I was going to give an introduction first, but this is better. Let my mother read you read the poem first?
Yes.
And then I'll do my explanation.
You will, okay.
So I'll just, these are two poems by Taras Shevchenko, Ukrainian poet, 19th century.
Веселе сонечко ховалось в веселих хмарах весняних, гостей закованих своїх сердечним чаєм напували і часових переміняли. Синямундурих часових, і до дверей на ключ замкнутих, і до решотки на вікні. Привик я трохи, і мені не жаль було давно одбутих, давно похованих, забутих моїх кровавих тяжких сльоз. А їх чимало розлилось на марне поле, хоч би рута, а то нічого не зійшло. І я згадав своє село, кого я там коли покинув, і батько, і мати в домовині, і жалем серце запеклось. Що нікому мене згадати, дивлюсь, твоя, мій брате, мати, чорніше чорної землі, іде з Христа, неначе знята. Молюся, Господи, молюсь, хвалить Тебе не перестану, що я ні з ким не поділю мою тюрму, мої кайдани.
And this is a second poem that's sort of implied in the first poem, and then he works out he talks about remembering his village. He talks about, he's in jail. This poem is written from prison, and so he's remembering his village, and then in that first poem, and this is the details of that.
Садок вишневий коло хати, хрущі над вишнями гудуть, плугатарі з плугами йдуть, співають ідучи дівчата, а матері вечерять ждуть. Сім'я вечеря коло хати, вечірня зіронька встає, дочка вечерять подає, а мати хоче научати, та соловейко не дає. Поклала мати коло хати маленьких діточок своїх, сама заснула коло їх. Затихло все, тільки дівчата та соловейко не затих.
Okay, we probably should have done it the original way. Okay, so now comes the introduction. So, okay, so this poem was written by Taras Shevchenko, and when Bessie asked me to do a Ukrainian poem. This is like immediately to a Ukrainian person, Taras Shevchenko. Is anybody here Ukrainian? No. Taras Shevchenko comes to mind immediately. That's like the poet. And so of course I thought Taras Shevchenko, and then I remembered or re-remembered that this is his 200th birth anniversary. He was born in 1814, and UNESCO had planned to, or they did actually, they pronounced 2014 as the year of Shevchenko, but, and many celebrations would have been planned to celebrate his life and his work. He had a very difficult life, but then all this stuff came with Ukraine, and most of the celebrations fell by the wayside. But interestingly enough, it's the same issues, because in his time, the reason he was writing from prison was because he had joined a group of anti-Tsarist group in Russia, and when they were discovered, they were arrested and put in prison. And Shevchenko himself was banished to the Ural Mountains and to a military prison for longer than 10 years, and then he was pardoned in 10 years, and came. So he came back and died very soon after. So he lived only 47 years. He was born to serf parents, and therefore was a serf himself. He was orphaned when he was 9, and 9 when his mother died, 11 when his father died, and then had to make do as a little orphan boy, a little serf orphan boy. He was, worked very hard and was very abused. But it was discovered he had a talent for drawing, and so his owner took him to St. Petersburg to an art academy, and while he was there, he proceeded very well with art, but started writing poetry. And the poem that my mother read was written from prison, and I'll now give you what the poem was about. So he's in prison, and he's looking out, and he sees the sun playing with the spring clouds. He sees the changing of the guards in their blue uniforms, and he remembers he said he's not mourning for all the tears that have been shed by him, the bitter tears, the painful tears, but he's still not mourning them, except that they have brought nothing. They were shed onto a field where not even a weed grew. And so anyway, and then he sees also, he's addressing this to one of his fellow co-conspirators that is also going to prison, or has been co-arrested with him. And he says he's thinking of his village, but that nobody's there because his mother and father have died, and this is totally autobiographical for him. But then he sees his friend's mother coming, looking black, like black soil. In other words, she was all worked out. She was, turned black from work and misery. But then the last two lines are that he will not exchange his chains and prison with anybody. So he sticks by his anti-Tsarist stand. And the second poem my mother read was, he describes the village life, and it's a very simple, idyllic sort of life if you extract from it the serfdom and the hard work. And so they're sitting in the cherry orchard, the maybugs are buzzing, the mother is preparing dinner, is waiting for people to return to dinner, and the girls are singing, the plowmen are coming home, And at night, she has put all the children to bed, has fallen asleep herself, and there is now silence, except that the girls and the nightingales keep singing. So that was, that was sort of the little cheerful ending.
No, don't go. I just want to say something. I just want to say that we all are aware of the suffering of the people in Ukraine right now, and our thoughts are with you and our support. And I also think that since the celebration for this poet could not happen because of the war, we should all get up and give him a round of applause for him being in prison and staying true to his beliefs, and for all the poets in prison. You don't have to clap. Thank you. And all the poets who are in prison because they are trying to bring the truth to their people. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Bessie.
I'm going to ask that the people who come in late, if they could just sit in the back, that would be really helpful, because I know that there are more people coming in for the 2:30 to 4 o'clock. So at this point, I would like to call Joyce, if she's ready. There she is. Woohoo! It would take me a very, very long time to read all the wonderful things that Joyce has accomplished. She just gave a wonderful performance and workshop this week as part of the festival, and was very generous and said, "Can I do a poem for the final too?" And I am just beyond honored that she wanted to share her work with us. And Joyce Ashuntangtan is now a professor at the University of Hartford, and everybody I know seems to know her, because I talk to OK and Diva and say, "Oh yeah, Joyce is my," Marilyn Nels, "Oh yeah, Joyce is my friend." So we have this little community that we didn't even know we had. So please welcome Joyce Ashuntangtan. Thank you, honey.
I'm so excited to be here, but you guys are going to bear with me, because I've been having pictures taken of me talking, but nobody ever sees the audience I'm talking to. So I'm like, this time I'm not living here with that kind of picture.
Send me one, I want a copy.
Because otherwise my family in Cameroon would think maybe she just changes her clothes and takes pictures. Okay, I was just excited to see that we had this at the program. I travel a lot for international poetry festivals, and it's very normal for us to come and speak our poems in different languages. And when Betsy, I saw this program, and I know she did not want to overburden the lead poets to come back today, and I said, Betty, I can do this every day if I could. So I'll go straight to it. I'm going to read a poem, my own poem in Kenyan. As you would know, I'm from Cameroon. Cameroon was colonized by Germany, then Britain, then France. Unfortunately, because of colonization, our official languages are French and English. So Kenyan, I don't get to speak Kenyan. I didn't study it. Fortunately, I grew up with parents who respected the language, and they spoke it, and so I picked it up from them. And because I did literature and I ended up doing linguistics and African linguistics, I learned the alphabet. And it's not very common for my peers to know their languages, so it's something I'm proud of, and every opportunity I have, because I would say the English language has stolen a lot from me as I write my poetry in English. But now I'm hoping that I could give back to that language, and this was a perfect opportunity for me to write a poem in Kenyan. I hope that going forward I will be able to do more poems in Kenyan, because honestly, that language continues to survive. But it would be wonderful if we can keep a lot of our experiences in that language as well for posterity. So this poem is titled Asso. Asso is my village in Cameroon, and the gist of the poem is that I have traveled all over the world. I've gone to a lot of sophisticated cities, but I carry Ashum with me. It is spelled Ashum, but my people call it Asso, because to forget Asso is to forget the blood that runs in my body. It is to forget my parents. It's to forget my ancestral seed. It is to forget my soul. Asso, motoro wawu, Cameroon. Asso, antenapion, yem ramai, wachichimante. Befere wamante, nochive oronte retaya. Nochive oronte manume achimamret. Men kansi asso, nkansi etaya. Ika tong vesembi, mpura kwen bon kabresu, ibe se nye chikenyang. A porovari siante, isenjensi, anen koba tai, anen koba bio. Magi sem mara, nsingwo sem mara, sen gwad nuwe beng. Sen chefa, sen chefa, sen chefa. Nan kove tok venyu, Paris, London, Belgium, ngari kwaten kwen America. Ke motro wawu achimante. Va ati meve, benyingwe upsi. Va ati meve, mpaya chindu nereket. Va ati meve, etoke biok ndaga kefo. Ke mempuro motro wawu. Menchi chan faiba seme. Manu a kongo chindem. Menchi Moaso Temramai. I have been told that things have changed. I have been told that there are problems in the family. I have been told that there are disputes here and there. But I carry Asso in me because to forget Asso is to forget the blood in my veins. Thank you. I'm going to do a second poem, and you forgive me, I prefer not to translate so much because I want you to soak in the language. Even if you don't understand it, I just want you to feel the words. So this one has to do with domestic violence. It has to do with a woman who enters a love relationship happily, but finds out that she's being abused, and eventually she takes a decision to leave. And like most African poetry, it is a melange of poetry, drama, music. So you get all of it together. Chongambai mi, ntewa kongma, chongambai mi, esamu wa kongma, chongambai mi, ntemo wa kongma, chongambai mi. Akokeretaya ndongotai, akokeretaya ndong nendong, even the meke ya vai, even the meke ya kong. Ibe kong shumyang kong apyong ansep etitia. Menkwo ngoa memekong. Menkwo nyobria memekong. Kei yiketara anyu anje anyu ankwen. Mbendem andep. Mbembek ansai. Mbendi anjati. Anden anjati. And then anjati, and then anjati. Ay, njingenob, nkaisi no di, mbe mene, neme kongo wane membai, arabe sai me gerewe, arabe sai me full kang. Be ay, peme. Wataya choro, maya choro, pay me, chine pemena. I have a life to live. Thank
you. You can see why everybody wants to be her friend. Thank you so much. You really honor us with your presence here today. It's 2 o'clock, and I would like to call the people who are scheduled still from the 1 to 2:30. And I know that there are people coming in, so I'm just going to wait for them to sit. There are a lot of seats in the front. If you would like to send people, Susan, you can send people to that area if. And we have more participants coming. He's in the second part. Now, is there a participant here that has to leave right away? You want to come next? Sure, thank you. Nilofer is going to be reading, and I have to find the other one. I have too many pieces of paper. Nilofer is going to be reading in Urdu, and thank you so much for being here. I've been bothering her to help me find people, and she has been very kind. So I'm thrilled that you could join us today.
Thank you for inviting me. Assalamu alaikum and peace be upon you. Muhammad Iqbal, the poet of the East, lived a life outwardly of which there is little to be said, and inwardly of which little is known. Born in the province of Punjab in 1873, he was educated in both Indian and Western culture, and in 1899 graduated from the Government College of Lahore, the capital of the province. He was the national poet and is still the national poet of Pakistan. For 6 years, he was a lecturer in philosophy at Lahore. He studied in Europe, at Trinity College, Cambridge, and in Heidelberg, Germany, and also qualified in law. He continued to live in Lahore, earning enough as a lawyer to defray his modest expenses while devoting himself chiefly to his studies and to poetry. In 1922, he accepted a knighthood, and he was recognized as the most eminent writer of Muslim India. Iqbal's normal unit is the self-contained couplet of 2 lines, or misras, of equal length. At times, he arranges lines in groups of 3, as in 90, or more often, 5, as in 111. Urdu meters, mainly derived from Persian, are varied and effective. They are based on a quantitative system which divides the foot into sound units, composed of long vowels and vowelized and or unvowelized consonants. This poet is called Azan. एक रात सितारों से कहा नजम सहर ने, आदम को भी देखा है किसी ने कभी बीदार, कहने लगा मरी और फहम है तकदीर, है नींद ही इस छोटे से फितने को सजावार। ज़हरा ने कहा और कोई बात नहीं किया, इस कर्मिक शब कौर से किया हमको सरकार। बोला मिक कामिल के वो कौकब है ज़मीनी, तुम शब को नमूदार हो और दिन को नमूदार, वाकिफ़ हो अगर लज्जते बीदारी शब से, ऊंची है सुरिया से भी ये खाके पुरस्रार। आगोश में इसकी वो तजल्ली है कि जिसमें खो जाएंगे अफलाक के सब साबुत ओ सय्यार। नागा फिज़ा बांगे अजान से हुई लब्बे रेज़, वो नारा कि हिल जाता है जिससे दिल कुहसार। The prayer call. One night among the planets, the star of morning said, Has ever star seen slumber desert man's drowsy head? Fate, being nimble-witted, bright Mercury returned, served well that petty rebel, tame sleep was what he earned. Have we, asked Venus, nothing to talk about besides? Or what is it to us where that night-blind firefly hides? A star, the full moon answered, is man of terren ray. You walk the night in splendor, but so does he the day. Let him once learn the joy of outwatching night's brief span. Higher than all the Pleiades, the unfathomed dust of man. Closed in that dust, a radiance lies hidden, in whose clear light shall all the skies fix tenures and orbits fade from sight. Suddenly rose the prayer call and overflowed heaven's lake, that summons at which even cold hearts of mountains quake. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam. Thanks
So this is the book, and it is poems from Iqbal, renderings in English verse with comparative Urdu text.
so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I'm so glad you could come. No, I understand. I know that it's the day before Easter, and many of you are celebrating. I have a whole bunch of people in the back. I'm going to stop the program until they can find seats. Ana Alfaro is here for Ana Lee, Univision. All right, Ana. So if people who are if people who have to leave, you want to leave now? If people who are sitting in the back can move forward, then I would like to have the last rows empty for the people coming in for the second part of the program, if at all possible, so it's not distracting. And those of you who are participants who have been here and have to go, I cannot thank you enough for making my dream come true of hearing all these poems in different languages. During one of the poetry programs for poet Pit Pinniger, I had Rashna Agrawal from India reading a poem, and she said she never thought she was going to be able to read her favorite Hindi poet in this country. And it meant so much to her to share that with the people who were there that day. So in my next life, I want to be able to learn many, many languages. I started too late this time. So if we can get, wishes for your next life, I want that one. I want to speak many, many languages. Yes. You have a question? I can't hear you. You want to come up?
No, we are just waiting on here. Like, when are you going to call us?
When I'm going to call you, you were scheduled for the 2:30. You're Lashu, right?
Yeah.
You were scheduled for 2:30 to 4 o'clock. Is that okay, or you have to go to work? Do you need to read now? Yeah. Okay, we can make an exception, right? Can we let him read now? Yeah. All right. Okay, and it's two of you. Lashu, and I don't know your friend's name, and you're going to be reading in... You're Lashu? Which one is Lashu? Because I haven't met. Hello, how are you? I'm Gassi. Nice to meet you. And you are?
Padam.
Padam. Nice to meet you. Thank you. I sent you letters, right? For him? Okay. Now that we know who's who, you want to go there? And if one of you would like to use this microphone.
Okay, I'm going to use this.
You're going to use this one? And do you want to explain a little bit the language that you are going to be reading in?
Okay. Thank you. We are cousins, so it's difficult to distinguish. So let me tell you something like who we are. So we are the precipitate form of Royal Bhutan government policy. That policy is called One Nation, One People. So we precipitate in the year 1990, and we reside in Nepal for 19 years under the hot plastic roof, which was administered by UNHCR. And I was like 8 years old, and my cousin was like 5 years old. And we just got education in the camp. And I did my bachelor's in Bhutanese refugee camp in eastern Nepal. And my brother has just completed high school diploma. And we came here in 2011. And then we are still working hard to see the world. And we are very thankful with the government of US government. And recently we are forming a small community in Hartford, Connecticut. And we are like 32 families. Originally, we are from Nepal. Our ancestors are from Nepal. So in 16th century, our ancestors, they migrated to Bhutan. And we just left after 1990. So this is all our background. And basically, we speak Nepali language. And our mother tongue is Nepali. And we have two different languages in our country. Dzongkha, which is the national language, belongs to Buddhists. And Lochompas, we are called Lochompas, meaning the southerners, the people who live in southern Bhutan. And we are just trying to present one poem, you know. So we don't like to have like patriotic poem because we have been just struggling for that, you know, since many years. So all we are going is little backward and just trying to show the human instinct, the appropriate human instinct, like how we human being has to be to have a complete, you know, state in human being, or just to build complete state. Because we were evicted because of that simple or like, you know, egoic nature of our royal government of Bhutan. So we just like to open our heart in broader sense in this little ghazal. And this was composed by my cousin, like 1 month ago. And he gonna just present this ghazal, and I'm gonna tell you a little bit about that. I'm going to paraphrase that. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm pleased to be here in this festival to tell about me. I think my cousin, he told more about me. Then also, let me tell you something about me. I'm from Bhutan. I spent 19 years, almost 20 years in Nepal as a refugee. So after maybe I've been here in the United States in 2011. That's my short background. And today I'm with a ghazal. Okay, let me go through it. भक्ति बिना मन्दिरमा धाएर के हुन्छ? भक्ति बिना मन्दिरमा धाएर के हुन्छ? दैव सामु झुटो कसम खाएर के हुन्छ? भक्ति बिना मन्दिरमा धाएर के हुन्छ? हातै जोडी बसे पनि मन सफा हुनुपर्छ. हातै जोडी बसे पनि मन सफा हुनुपर्छ. बिना आस्था भक्ति भजन गाएर के हुन्छ? भक्ति बिना मन्दिरमा धाएर के हुन्छ? आफ्नै मनमा खोजी हेर ईश्वर छन् कि छैनन्? आफ्नै मनमा खोजी हेर ईश्वर छन् कि छैनन्? हातमा गीता शिरमा टीका लगाएर के हुन्छ? भक्ति बिना मन्दिरमा धाएर के हुन्छ? मानवतालाई लत्याएर भौतिक सुख खोज्दै हिँड्यौ. मानवतालाई लत्याएर भौतिक सुख खोज्दै हिँड्यौ. रित्तिएर आज एक्लै कराएर के हुन्छ? भक्ति बिना मन्दिरमा धाएर के हुन्छ आमा बाबा ईश्वरको दोस्रो रूप हुन्छन् आमा बाबा ईश्वरको दोस्रो रूप हुन्छन् खुसी देऊ सक्छौ भने रुवाएर के हुन्छ भक्ति बिना मन्दिरमा धाएर के हुन्छ दैव सामु झुटो कसम खाएर के हुन्छ थ्याङ्क यू एभ्रीबडी
Okay. My cousin, he just, this is a poem, we call ghazal. So many Indian friends, Pakistani and Irani people, they know about it, like ghazal, what is ghazal. So this poem is, let me tell you what is ghazal about. The ghazal is a short lyric poem composed of a series of 5 to 15 couplets, each of which stand independently on its own as a poetic thought. The couplets are linked through a rhyme scheme established in both lines of first couplets and continue in second lines of each following pairs of lines, like as my brother repeated. And let me tell you another also. Like meter is not strictly determined here, but the lines of couplets must be of equal length. The theme usually connected to love and longing, either romantic desire for a mortal beloved or a spiritual longing for communication with higher power, like my brother did that. The closing signature of couplets of a ghazal often includes the poet's name or an allusion to it. Okay, so this is all about like what is ghazal specifically. And let me tell you like what is written in that. So the ghazal, which my cousin presented, illustrate the human instinct of worshipping God to get salvation. Like we have two different dimensions in our country. We are belonging to two different religions, Hinduism and Buddhism. And like people, like every religious people, they have their own faith and they just try to do, devotion to get salvation. But this is especially we are writing this just to depict the nature of our government. And the ghazal illustrate the outward fashion of people with less compassion to worship God. Ghazal emphasize more on reality and devotion with compassionate feeling from the true heart to serve all living aspects of the planet, the earth. Attending temple or religious places will not be purposeful and meaningful unless it is by true heart and compassionate feeling. It says, within us, if we can think, there is God. Like God is within us, and we have to be more moral and rational or compassionate than to have books like Gita. Here we just mention our own religious book, Gita. So by carrying that, going temple, reading that, will not make a religious man and will not get salvation. So only thing is, like we should have compassionate feeling from inside to serve all the living aspect of this planet. So our ethic or the theme of this poem is this one. Because of that little confusion, we just evicted from the country. And finally, in last stanza it says like our parents are the God. We can consider them as God because they help us to see this beautiful world and like being moral with high spiritual values and compassionate feeling to serve all living aspect. Here not only human being, living aspect means whatever. So everybody should have their freedom to live here on the earth. So with this ethic only, we can make this world prosperous one. So this is all about our ghazal. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's very touching for me in a way, coming from having been born in a country that has known dictatorships since the independence, Cuba, and grown up in Panama with another dictatorship, to think about how many of us in this room really come from countries, are either refugees or countries who are still struggling to find independence and to find a voice. So when I set up this reading together, it didn't occur to me that I was going to be so touched by hearing all these voices from people who are here not because necessarily they want to, but because they have no choice. And I'm very grateful that they made Hartford and Greater Hartford their new home. Thank you. Before we go to the second part, I would like to thank some people who have been working very hard, and they greeted you at the door, they told you where to sit and what your name was and things like that. And one is Catherine Blinder. She's right here. Nancy Correa is standing back there. Susan Holm, my everything. And Marie McCain, thank you so much for being. And Barbara Fernandez. So, one thing I have learned throughout these 2 weeks is how important friendships are. And I know my Facebook page is going to be a lot smaller because who didn't show up is not going to be there anymore. And whoever supported me is going to get an extra invitation for the summer. So. But I'm really, really grateful to everybody who has contributed to make today what it is. Thank you so much, and thank you to all my volunteer ushers. The next person I'm going to call, she has been waiting patiently now for some time, is Alisa, I hope I say your name right, Sananovic. Sananovic? Sort of. Thank you. And she will be reading in Bosnian, and she's going to tell us a little bit about that, too. Thank you so much, Alisa.
Hi, everybody. Can everybody hear me? I am soft-spoken, so I apologize ahead of the time. I'm so thrilled to be here and to share this day with you, with all of you, and I love hearing everybody's accents, and it makes me not feel so unique. It's such a great way to bring us all together. But ironically, when I first moved to the US, I've spent many days here at the library, and it feels really good to be back and to see how much it's evolved and how much my own life has evolved. So I left Bosnia when I was 9 years old, and unfortunately I didn't get exposed to poetry that much because at that time I was in 2nd grade. So to prepare for today, I did quite a bit of research, which was great, involving my family and so forth, trying to learn more about poetry in Bosnia. So Bosnia falls actually into one of the categories that you mentioned just a few minutes ago, experienced war in the early 90s, which led for a lot of people to move and leave the country. And as you can imagine, a lot of the poems deal with the war and also with people who are outside of the country and who wish to reconnect with their homeland. So I decided not to present a poem about that. Today is a happy occasion, and I didn't want to bring with me a somber poem. So the poem that I'm going to read to you, the name is Nasledje, or in English it means inheritance. And it's a beautiful poem about a mother and the love for her child. And I thought it's kind of appropriate if we skip a little bit of Easter, and since we have Mother's Day approaching very soon. And it's so nicely and eloquently written that I hope the little bit of translation that I'm going to share with you really does it justice. So what makes this poem so special is the use of symbolism. So for example, the mother in this poem is gifting the child with the seeds of experience and is asking the child to plant those seeds for better days. asking it to water the seeds with laughter. She's also gifting the child with pieces of the sun, instructing the child to use it to brighten the hurt earth during difficult times. She's asking the child not to be afraid when there's a high tide of night and darkness and a low tide of happiness in life. She's encouraging the child not to be afraid of the desert of kindness, because in her heart she's carrying a sword made of an eagle's feather, which will always protect the child with the power of a mother's love. So in Bosnian, that reads, Ostavljam ti sjeme vremena, posi ljepše dane u ravnici budućnosti i zalijeva ih smijehom nevine djece. Pružam ti mrvice tišine, uroni u njene virove, tamo sakriji lance samoće. Poklanjam ti komadiće sunca, prospiji ih po ranjenoj zemlji, da njihovo svjetlo probudi modrinu rijeka. I ne plaši se plime noći, ni oseke radosti, ne kloni od žeđi u pustnji dobrote. Ne drhti ispred prljavih sjenki laži. U mom srcu nosi mač od sokova pera, da te zauvijek brani snagom majčine ljubavi. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Make sure you leave a copy. I have to remind the participants to please leave a copy. Yes? Sure. That would be fine. You can come now if you want. And I'm sorry I don't know your name because I only know email addresses.
My name is Noit Bahar.
Oh, Noit, how are you? So nice. Thank you so much. I was going to call you next anyway.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, a friend in common was able to get Noit to read here today. Shana Shrek, who many of you know from her days in Hartford. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. The poem I'm going to read was written by myself, and the translation was written by myself and Shana Surek. And the poem is inspired by a story that we just finished celebrating. It's the story of leaving Egypt. When I say we, I'm talking about the Jewish community. It's a story that is mentioned in the second book of the 5 books of Moses, that in Hebrew is said, it's called the Torah. It's, if anybody wants to look it up, it's Exodus chapter 2, verses number 1 to 9. I wrote it in Hebrew, which is my native language. I was lucky enough to born and raised in Hebrew. What I would only like to mention is that Hebrew has been around for a long time. Some would say 5,000 years, some would say 4,000 years, but everybody agrees that it's in the thousands. And what happened was that at one point, Hebrew was forbidden to be used because history reveals itself sometimes in unkind ways, and Hebrew became a language that used to practice while hiding. And so it used to be practiced only to be read from the Old Testament or the Torah, as we call it. And in the late 800s, early 1900s, Eliezer ben Yehuda was saying, okay, enough is enough, we are now safe. Hebrew should go back to where what it was. And the country of Israel is now run by the language of Hebrew. In Israel, there are 3 languages that are being written on any cream cheese package. That would be Hebrew, and then it would be Arabic, And lately, Russian was added to it because there were many Russian immigrants coming to Israel in the past 30 years or so. That's about Hebrew. So now to my poem. It's almost like a thank you note that a mother who had to put her baby boy, into the river, the Nile River, writes to the daughter of the king that said to all the Israelites to put their babies into the water. She said, oh, I see this baby, and I know this baby is an Israelite baby, and yet, although I am the daughter of that king who said to put the babies into the water, I'm going to take this baby out of the water. So the mother, the one who gave birth to the baby, writing this poem to the mother who actually took the baby from the river. לא בדמות מלאך אלוהים, מלא רחמים, לבני נגלה שומר חיים. לא בזעקה אל שמיים ריקים מתשובה, מצאתי מנוח. את דחפה ידי הבוגדת, אריסה אהובה, אל פני נהר גורף אובדנם של בנים. זו את שמצאת ילד זר לך, לחמול עליו, ואליי ידעת לשלוח להניק לו חלב. זו את ששמרת לו חיים. את יכביד האל את ליבו בעמו, בזעם שותים מצליפי אדם, מלך חדש לבכי תינוקות צמאים לחלב עמם, ועבדות מבעירה מכאוב בנפש וגוף עד זוב דם נקמה. אני אל מול תהומות השנאה וייאוש שנערם, ערומה מתפילה ניצבת, מוקירה שאת בני שלי העברי הניקה חיים, אישה מצריה. And the translation is, I forgot to say that the poem's name is Zuat Sheshamart Lo Chaim, and the translation, as I said, was written by myself and Shayna Surek, and the poem's name is My Son's Life Keeper. Not an angel from up above, with a heart beating compassion and love, stood by my son to keep him alive. Not a cry upon the divine sky allowed me solace when my traitor hand pushed my baby's cradle away. It was you who knew to find a stranger's child to let him live. In a time when the power of all that there is spreads horror as one man enslaves another, while the sick river's water comes to nurse babies to their death. As the days grow hollow of hope, as desperation fertilizes a valley of revenge, I stand bare, untouched by a prayer, yet grateful for the blessing of an Egyptian woman's care who knew to make sure that my Israelite son's life will be spared. Thank you. Toda.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. When I mentioned that Shayna had helped me know it, I also, in the thank yous, I have Lynn Williamson, who's here today, and she was wonderful helping me find people, and I kept saying, Lynn, I need somebody who speaks this language and that language, and she would say, well, let me see what I can do. So that's how most of you were here today, through my sending messages to all of you. Would you like to be next? I have a very special person today. She's a writer, and I hope I can say her name properly, Vanji Hassel. And Vanji is going to be doing a Jamaican dialect patois.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm assuming everyone out there knows where Jamaica is, right? Anyone who doesn't know? Okay, well, if you don't know where Jamaica is, you probably have heard Jamaicans speak, and you're trying to figure what they're saying, right? I'm gonna let you into a secret. Most of what they're saying is actually English. Approximately 90% of the Jamaican dialect is English. The other 10% is a mixture of different languages. And if you know anything about the history of the Caribbean or the West Indies, you know that we were under colonial rule for hundreds of years. And eventually in 1962, Jamaica and other Caribbean countries, two others, said, you know what, we've had it. So they wanted their independence. So we know that when you have a dominant power that comes in and takes over, and there's a kind of a clash of languages. So the English actually ruled Jamaica for quite some time, and so their English is what they pushed. However, for them to be able to communicate, they had to kind of come up with something a dialect that would kind of make them understand each other. And so the patois or Jamaican dialect was born. Of course, it kind of came to be associated with slavery or the poorer class, so most people didn't want to speak it. However, a woman called Louise Bennett, somewhere in the 1930s, 1940s and forward, she became the voice of the people in that she decided that the Jamaican dialect was worthy of speech and worthy to be heard. And so a lot of what she did was in the Jamaican dialect. And if you think about it at that time, for a woman to be in the forefront of literature in the Caribbean or anywhere else, she had to be powerful. So she kind of was going against the grain. And even for those of us who know something about Jamaica, even now in our 21st century, there are still people who don't like you to speak the dialect. So the Jamaican dialect became kind of a performance poetry. And so Louise Bennett, whom we affectionately call Miss Lou, was at the forefront of getting people to say, hey, our language, this should be a language. It's what most of us speak. So the poem I'm going to do for you today is actually one that I wrote. And I don't normally write in the Jamaican dialect, because it's not very easy to, be heard when you speak a dialect or you write in a dialect that most people don't understand. So I'm going to read, first of all, in the dialect, and then I'm going to read the translation. And this poem that I wrote was written at a period of time where Jamaica was going through a transition. There was a lot of violence because they were deporting a lot of people from the U.S., and whether or not they were Jamaican, they ended up in Jamaica. So there was a lot of violence going on. And, it really got to me living here in the U.S. and wanting to go home to visit, but being afraid. So this is what this poem is all about. Like I said, Jamaican poetry is performance. I'm not a performer, but I'll read it and do my best. It's called Look What Jamaica Come To, and basically it's look at what's happened, what we've become. Lord of mercy, wanna see what go on, for me little barn land? People are dead like fly every hour. Life what nothing, it's cheaper than flour. Massima, what am I do? Independence time and freedom for true. Freedom for kill and mash up the land. You ever see anything like this from your barn? Girl picnic, boy picnic, all of them turn enemy and forget who are them friend. What am I going with? What am I do? Jamaica, me ban me belly for you. Lord, missus, it hot for true when you want to go home, but you don't know what to do. Police and soldier, criminal and all, make you hold down your head and want to ball. You afraid like a dog for show your face. Massima is a damn disgrace. Wanna stop the foolishness, put down the gun, stop make we people blood run. Live like friend, live like a family, and stop turn Jamaica in a cemetery. So my translation, did you understand that? Yes. See, I told you. So you just gotta listen to us when we talk, right? So anyway, I'm gonna still read the translation. Lord, have mercy. Do you see what is going on in my little barnland? People are dying like flies every hour. Life is worth nothing. It's cheaper than flour. Have mercy, ma'am. What are they doing? It's independence and freedom in truth. Freedom to kill and destroy the land. Have you seen anything like this since you were born? Girls, boys, all of them have turned into each other's enemy, forgetting who their friends are. What are they going on with? What are they doing? Jamaica, I weep for you. Lord, girl, it hurts in truth when you want to go home, but you don't know what to do. Police and soldier, even the criminal, make you hold your head in shame and want to cry. You're scared as a dog to show your face. Mercy, ma'am, it's a damn disgrace. You all stop the foolishness and put down your gun. Stop making our people's blood run. Live like friends, live like family, and stop making Jamaica into a cemetery. Thank you.
I have a story to tell about calling her, and she says, I am waiting in line to go see President Obama at Central. And I said, but I need you to read for my festival. And she said, I'll call you later. And I said, can you blow him a kiss for me?
I tried, you did.
So that was our first interaction. I am so honored that you were here today.
Thank you so much.
Adelia, are you ready? Yes. We're going to have a treat. I had originally invited a member of the Mohegan tribe. A member of the Mohegan tribe to be part of this program today. And unfortunately, there was a death in the family, and she was not able to attend. So it was really important for me to have someone speak in a native language, in an indigenous language. So I called Jorge and I said, Jorge, do you know anybody who knows Quechua? And he goes, of course, my wife. So Adelia was kind enough to come and read in Quechua. And then do you want me to read it first? Do you want to read the poem first and then I read? How do you want to do it?
You can read now.
No?
Yeah.
Okay. So she gave me a little explanation of what the poem is about. I'm going to wait for people to sit down before we start. Thank you. The poem is called Beautiful Woman. This is a memoir from a granddaughter of her grandma, one whom always considered to be a great woman and the person who taught her the language of her ancestors, Quechua. Every time she remembers her grandmother's words, her image comes to mind, her white hair, her beautiful facial features, those eyes of capuli, a native fruit which had a special brown tint. Through her, she also remembers all the moments they share in the town she lived in, her costumes, and all her anecdotes. Although time and circumstances eventually separated them, she never forgot the language of this unique woman. Adelia, with her poem, wants to highlight that her grandma was the origin of a great generation that now lives and will continue to live proud of her. Thank you.
Good afternoon. This is for pleasure for me, for inviting me, Bessie. Thank you. Thank you. Sumah warmi. Sapa kutiri sutirihti kairuna simita manang kong kay manchu chay sumah warmi chata. Hatun mamay manang kong kay manchu chay llahtata. Chay wasichanta. Chay runasimi runakti. Sapapunchay yacharisaita kanan rimarisiane. Hatun mamay askata munakunki. Imaynata konkayman chay runasimita. Yuyarispa haykun lluqsin manan sayanchu. Paylla ruasian mana pisipaschu. Chunka punchaymi tiyarini paywan, sapa punchay yacharini paymanta. Sapa tutayamanta waharimuspaniwan. Hatari, hatari, hawari hawata. Inti yoksiramun. Yanapayway. Yanapayway walpakunata mihuchimusun. Hamuy mask'ami sarata waqarispa mihuchimusun. Taka nispa waqarini walpakunata. Llapan walpakuna hamun ñuqa puqllarispa hina hawarini. Huna maskata unuta maskamuni walpakunapaq. Manan pisipanchu chay warmichaqa inti haykunankama. Tutan munayta hawarini. Ch'askakunata junta qellata hawarini. Imaynata purin tuta kancharispa. Hawaypi puririn ñuqa chiriwayra chiamon nuqaman mancharispa hina. Uhuymanta wahamun mamay. Hamuy, puñuy. Paymi hamun pusawan. Nuhaspa, munawaspa, uhyawaspa, punuchiwan. Mamitay, kaymi kanki, hatun mamay. Mamay, kankuna, manan konkaymanchu, kay miski runasimi yachasayta. Orjon tampuririni, haru llaqtaman ripurani. Manan konkaymanchu, yuraq chuqchachaykita, kapuli ñawichaykita. Sumaq sunqu warmi. Kampi wawaykikuna kawsarispa tiyarin sunqu. Sumaq warmi. La ira ra ira ra ira ra sumah warmi kapah kay tarimarin.
I have to say that Adelia and Jorge and Ruth, who are here, have been my friends for many, many years, and they have given me one page in their newspaper, Identidad Latina, so I can bring the arts to the people in Spanish, and I'm very grateful to them for that. And thank you for helping me today. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to ask my friend Isabel Calione from Uruguay. She has prepared a special poem for today, and she's here with her children, whom are very beautiful and I had never met before. And I want to thank her again for coming. Isabel just put out a book, a mystery romance novel, and she couldn't just stay with one book. She had to do a second book. So now she just published her second book. So I'm very proud of her, and I'm looking forward to our friendship. So would you come? Isabel Calione.
Good afternoon. My name is Isabel Calione. I'm from Uruguay in South America, and I am an author. I like to write novels, and I like to write poems too. I wrote these poems years ago, and I chose this one because it's very special for me. And I'm not going to explain a lot about the poem because I have it in Spanish and in English, and I know I don't have too much time. So first I'm going to read in Spanish and then in English. El nombre del poema se llama Aferrada a tu amor. ¿Qué puedo decir si lo dije todo? ¿Qué puedo hacer si lo intenté todo? Tu amor me alimenta día a día. ¿Cómo resignarme que lo nuestro es un error si mi alma me dice que no? El no tenerte me desespera. Solo me quedo con el regalo que la vida me dio, que es amarte, mi amor. Intenté sacarte de mis días tristes. Intenté sacarte de mis sueños y no resultó. Me resigno una y mil veces. Vuelvo a empezar de cero otra vez para después darme cuenta que nunca te fuiste, que eres dueño de mi ser. Tu amor es como un veneno que me mata. Es un río de felicidad que corre por mis venas. Estoy entre dos aguas, vivo entre el amor y la pena. El destino nos hizo una mala jugada. Cruzó dos almas que se atraen, dos caminos diferentes, dos almas desencontradas. Me enfrento y reto al reloj del tiempo sin importarme nada. Hoy sufro por eso. Sigo enamorada. Mi amor, te digo hoy y siempre, no puedo corregir mi corazón. Yo sigo aquí, esperándote, con los brazos abiertos y sin rencor. No puedo olvidarte. Sigo aferrada a tu amor. Thank you. Now in English, the name is Latched to Your Love. I can't say more than what I have said. I can't do more than what I have done. Day by day, I'm nourished by your love. You are my life's great desire. Have to accept that this is all a mistake when my soul screams no. Not having you disturb me, and all I'm left with is a life's gift to love you, my love. I tried to remove you from my days of sadness. I tried to remove you from my dreams, but it was all in vain. I resign myself repeatedly, and I return to the very beginning, and I realize that you never left me, that you are the master of my being. Your poisonous love kills me. It's a river of happiness running through my veins. I'm between two streams. I live between love and sadness. Destiny played us a dirty trick when it crossed two souls with so much attraction. Two different roles, two different and unmet generations. I face and challenge the clock time without fear. Today, I suffer from this challenge. I'm still in love. My loved one, I will tell you that now and always, I cannot correct my heart. I await you with open arms and without bitterness. I can't forget you. I am legend unto your love. Thank you.
The next reader is going to be Srinivas Mandavali, a surgeon who is a wonderful poet. We happened to meet some years ago when we were taking the summer workshop at Wesleyan. And I think I'm starting to need coffee, you know, at Wesleyan University. And we were encouraging each other to continue to write. And I am so thrilled that I was the judge for the Connecticut Poetry Society this year. And I didn't know who the participants were, but I gave him the honorary mention for his wonderful poem about a dog that meets him when he comes to the house. It's just a beautiful poem. And I am so happy to have you here today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bessie. You're pretty amazing. It's very nice to see a few familiar faces in the crowd here today, and some wonderful poets. I actually heard John read at the Mark Twain House recently, and a few others. So it's great. The poem I'm going to read is in Hindi. I'm from southern India, and so if there are people in the audience who know in Hindi, I'll probably butcher some of these words, but it's a poem that I was read in high school. And when Bessie asked me to pick something, this for some reason came to mind. And I don't actually have a true English translation, so instead I'll just do a little preface and provide some context. The poem is called Tuta Paya, or Broken Wheel. Some of you might be familiar with the epic, the Mahabharata, which is a battle, perhaps a metaphorical battle that took place between the good and evil. And there's a scene in the battle where there's a young warrior, Abhimanyu, who is surrounded by the forces of evil, and who all he has left with to fight with is his own broken chariot wheel. So the poem is from the perspective of the broken wheel. Tuta Paya. मैं रथ का टूटा पहिया हूँ, लेकिन मुझे फेंको मत। क्या जाने इस दुरूह चक्रव्यूह में अक्षौहिणों सेनाओं को चुनौती देता हुआ कोई दुस्साहसी अभिमन्यु अगर गिर जाए, अपने पक्ष को असत्य जानते हुए भी बड़े बड़े महारथी अकेले निहिती आवाज़ को अपने ब्रह्मास्त्रों से कुचल देना चाहें, तब मैं रथ का टूटा हुआ पहिया ब्रह्मास्त्रों से लोहा ले सकता हूँ। मैं रथ का टूटा हुआ पहिया हूँ, लेकिन मुझे फेंको मत। इतिहासों की सामूहिक गति सहसा झूठी पड़ जाने पर क्या जाने सच्चाई टूटे पहिए का आश्रय ले। And I'm going to just read a little 4-line four lines in English, which is towards the end of the poem, but conveys the meaning of the poem. I am the broken wheel of a chariot, but do not discard me. As the history of society winds, much like a wheel, and gets broken by falsehood, who knows, truth might have to take refuge in a broken wheel. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for coming. If I ever do this again, I'm bringing a big cake and we're all going to celebrate something. I think I would like to call, I'm sorry, Ahalya Desikan, who's going to be reading in Tamil and has been driving from quite a distance to be here today. Just from Glastonbury, she says. Thank you so much. Glastonbury is quite a distance.
It is quite a distance, yes. Not much I need to. My language is Tamil. I love that as if it were a person, as much as I love my contemporary town. There's not much that I can say about the language that you can't find in Wikipedia. It's just a little bit more eloquent and fictionary than what I can say. So I'll just be concise. One of the very ancient languages. The poem that I've selected is by a contemporary physician, a doctor who lives in West Hartford. Tamil, very similar. In my language, it's called Tamil. In English, it's called Tamil. Very similar to many other languages of countries that have been colonized. It has a kind of a symbiotic and a sometimes cantankerous relationship with the colonizer, English, but it thrives. Even today, everybody is fond of poetry. We all read. We read, write, speak, eat, breathe Tamil. Very chauvinistic about the language to an extent. They are not dialects in India. They are independent languages, own script, own grammatical structure. The reason why I picked up this poem is for the form and the structure in more sense than one. I'm very much reminded, when I see what's going on in India, I think of Iran, I think of Middle East, what's going on there. There are a lot of things that are confusing. There are a lot of things that make especially the younger generation wonder where things are going. A lot of things seem to be something else in the facade, just as the poet herself. She is a famous physician living in West Hartford, but writes in perfect meter, in pentatonic structure, in the purest Tamil, and challenges Tamil. It's a very ancient language, but I don't want to give credence to antiquity as if it's a medal of honor. The antiquity also stifles. It stifles younger generation. Sometimes the older generations are leading people into war or leading people into unproductive ventures in life. And this author questions that and moves people out of status quo. So it's as much a contribution to what's happening in Middle East and Iran and to an extent in Ukraine and in India, where what seem outside is not necessarily what's happening inside, but don't lose hope, kind of a thing. I'm going to read that in Tamil and then my own translation in English. It's in free verse. நிஜமும் நிழல் வானவில்லுக்குள் வண்ணங்கள் உண்டு வந்து மோதும் அலைகள் ஆழம் உண்டு வீசும் தென்றலுக்கு ஓசை உண்டு பேசாத மனதிலும் ஆசை உண்டு விண்ணில் தெரியும் வண்ணங்கள் போல் நெஞ்சில் அலையும் எண்ணங்கள் எத்தனையோ எத்தனையோ அவை சத்தமே இல்லாத சங்கீதமோ நிழலாய் மாறிய மரத்தில் நிஜங்கள் கொஞ்சம் அடங்குமோ நிமிடத்தில் மறையும் சூரியனே நாளை நீ மீண்டும் வருவாயோ தினம் தினம் மனம் முயலும் முடியாமல் இரவில் உறங்கும் கடலில் மறையும் கதிரவனாய் காலையில் மீண்டும் மலரும் இருப்பதெல்லாம் மாயையானதால் இருவிழி மூடி நின்றேனோ நிஜங்கள் நிழலானதால் கனவில் உன்னை கண்டேனோ. Just a brief translation. The rainbow does have colors, just as clapping waves have depth. The breeze blows where music hovers, even the quietest of heart desires. And when she says the quietest of heart, I interpret that as women are not always encouraged to express their feelings, especially if it is a love feeling that you have for somebody. And she says, even the quietest of the heart's desires. You might be a woman, a younger generation who cannot speak up, but we know you have secret desires. As the hues that are seen in the sky, so are thoughts that traverse the mind. A multitude of these seem like a muted chorus of a kind. The tree has now become its own shadow, with truth hidden in its bow. You, the sun, fade away in a minute. That you will come tomorrow is indefinite. Daily, the mind tries ceaselessly. In vain goes to sleep in the night, just as the sun that dips into the ocean comes back the next day tirelessly. As all that exists does so in one's mind, I close my eyes and pause to find. As truth became its own impostor, I wonder if I conjured you as a dreamer. And I think the last stanza was, I found it very attractive. She says, all that exists does so in one's mind, almost like Descartes. In India, there is the concept of Maya, all that the pain and the suffering and the attachments that we have are embedded in language, and that's, it's from your perspective. You think you are everything, but you're no different from God or Almighty, and you're just a reflection kind of a thing, Maya. Or as Descartes say, you think, therefore you are. And then she says, I close my mind and pause to find, as truth become its own impostor, I wonder if I conjured you in my own mind. Here it's more like a love poem, and she's saying, are you real? Why aren't I getting anything back from you? Did I just dream you up? And there I think the personal becomes political. And the poet is Dr. Varalakshmi Niranjan, a West Hartfordian and a dear friend of mine. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Oh, thank you. I keep thinking about how fortunate we are today to be here and listening to all these wonderful recollections of country, of family, poems that some of you have learned when you were younger. It's really, you're lucky I decided not to read the first poem I ever had to learn in Cuba when I was in 4th grade, because it's quite long, and I don't even know if I can do all the hand things that little children do when they're reciting the sun and the moon. So I wanted to spare you that. The next person who's going to be reading is a friend of mine. Her name is Ildi David. And Ildi is going to be reading in Hungarian. And Ildi, as well as Francesco Martini, who will be reading later, were part of a class that I did at the Hartford Library. And when we were in that class, I asked them, would you read a poem in your own language? And they did. And I think that was the beginning of my thinking about how wonderful it is to hear all these poems in different languages. So I want to welcome Ildi, who's here today to read for us in Hungarian. Thank you. She's also a great supporter of poetry, volunteers at the Sunken Garden, and helps everybody, like me today.
There are many beautiful poems written in Hungarian. It's not an easy task to select just one. The one I ended up choosing is not one of the most beautiful poems, and it's a very short one. But I decided to read this poem because it always had a special meaning for me. It helped me get through difficult times when I felt discouraged, lost, hopeless, alone in the whole world. It gave me strength, courage, and hope whenever I recited in my mind the lines of the last stanza, my mantra. I read it in English first, then in Hungarian. From the Stream to the Ocean by Endre Adi. The stream is a big, sleepy, strange canal, puddled water, sedge, reed live in it, but Krasna, Samosh, Tisa, Duna carry its foam to the ocean. And if the mighty Skeeter forces topple over me, if 100 curses bind my blood, if 1,000 moles dig up a dam, I will still get to the ocean. I want it because this is a desperate courage. I want it because this is a wonder of the world. Someone starts off from the stream and runs into the Saint Big Ocean. Now in Hungarian, az értől az óceánig, Adi Endre. Az ér, nagy, álmos, furcsa árok, pocsolyás víz, sás, kákolakják, de Krasna, Szamos, Tisza, Duna óceánig hordják a habját. S ha rám dől a szitja magasság, ha 100 átok fogja a vérem, ha gátot túr föl 1000 vakond, az óceánt mégis elérem. Akarom, mert ez bús merészség. Akarom, mert világ csodája. Valaki az értől indul el, és befut a szent nagy óceánba.
Thank you so much. Before we continue, I would like to recognize 3 poets who were part of the festival. And they are here supporting this program today. And I really, really appreciate their support. They have been instrumental in making this festival successful by presenting their poems and workshops in every one of the branches of the library. And I have Antoinette Bream, who had an extraordinary turnout, even though her workshop happened to be the night that we had the horrible rain and wind. And I thought, oh my God, who's gonna come? And there the place was packed. So it was really wonderful. Our next poet that I would like to introduce is John Stanisi. And John Stanisi, I didn't realize when I assigned him, in a way, to the Albany branch, that that was the neighborhood in Hartford where he grew up. So it was a beautiful moment of serendipity that brought the two together. And the pictures of his workshop and reading are wonderful. He's surrounded by little children singing their poems, and it was just a lovely, lovely afternoon. And then the last one is Kate Russian. And Kate has been presenting. She had to be the Mariano Rivera and save the last inning of the baseball game when Ernie Blue could not be with us. Kate said, "Sure, I'll do it." So she saved me from trying to figure out who else can I bring. And she has been wonderful, doing a lot of different workshops in 2 of the different branches, very successfully. The other poets that couldn't be here are Leslie McGrath and Marianela Medrano and Jose Gonzalez. And each one of them really has taught us how beautiful it is, how creativity just hits it in so many different ways. And if you attended, some of you who attended many of the workshops can attest to that. After we left the Park Street branch, when Jose Gonzalez did his presentation, Letty, who's the branch manager, immediately said to me, "Are we going to do it in Spanish?" I said, "I just finished this one, give me a break." So it's really been a truly remarkable experience for all of us involved. I would like to invite Maha. And Maha, you're going to have to tell me how to say your name properly. Are you coming from storage, right?
No, I teach there, but I am from West Hartford.
Oh, she's from West Hartford. Here, I think people are driving miles and miles to get here. She drove all the way from West Hartford to be here. Thank you. And thank you so much for doing this. I know it's a day where everybody's so busy. And she's going to be reading in Arabic.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone, and I hope I won't be too long. I'm not going to focus on myself. I'm going to focus on the writer, the poet, who's a journalist and a nationalist, a national poet. His name is Mahmoud Darwish. He was born in 1941 and died in August 2008. I love his poem, and all the time I read it, and it was made also into song in Arabic. So for those who miss their mothers and their motherland, it always represents, I have been here in the States since 2001, and only with my husband and 3 boys, and I always long to my homeland in Palestine. And I always visit there every 6 months, but I still, every time that I talk about it, I feel that I'm missing something. So I'm going to talk about his life briefly because we can't ignore that, this poet. Mahmoud Darwish was born in the village of Al-Birwe in Western Galilee, Palestine, Israel today. His family was the landowner. His mother was illiterate. His grandfather taught him to read. And in June 1948, the family fled to Lebanon after his village was destroyed by the Israeli army. A year later, secretly, Darwish's family returned to the Acre area, which called Akko, in the north of Israel, Palestine, which is now part of Israel. Darwish left Israel in 1970. He attended the University of Moscow for 1 year before moving to Egypt and Lebanon and living in exile. When he joined the PLO, which is the Palestinian Liberation Organization, in 1973, he was banned from re-entering Israel. And Darwish had a history of a heart disease besides suffering, from exile and oppression because he was a political activist. So he suffered several heart attacks, and he came in 2008 for an operation in Houston, Texas, to do the operation, but he died from, complication from a heart surgery. He has many poems that are considered, which is the one that I'm going to read to my mother. Very strong, but I have always thought the poem he wrote to his mother is one of the strongest poems ever written for a mother. In this poem, mother is used as a metaphor for his homeland, for Palestine. The overpowering strength of his emotion in this poem and the way he walks the readers step by step through his longing with the use of vocabularies such as bread, fire, coffee, birds, swallows, wood, hair, heart, immortal, and touch make this poem very emotional and accessible to every reader that has known the love of a mother and motherland and thus is eternal. So I'm going to read the Arabic one and then read. It's a long poem, but I took parts that they are very, meaningful to me. So in Arabic, إلى أمي محمود درويش أحن إلى خبز أمي وقهوة أمي ولمسة أمي وتكبر في الطفولة يوما على صدر يومي وأعشق عمري لأني إذا مت أخجل من دمع أمي خذيني إذا عدت يوما وشاحا لهدبك وغطي عظامي بعشب تعمد من طهر كعبك وشدي وثاقي بخصلة شعر بخيط يلوح في ذيل ثوبك عساني أصير إلها أصير إذا ما لمست قرارة قلبك ضعيني إذا ما رجعت وقودا بتنور نارك وحبل غسيل على سطح دارك لأني فقدت الوقوف بدون صلاة نهارك هرمت فردي نجوم الطفولة حتى أشارك صغار العصافير درب الرجوع لعش انتظارك. This is the Arabic. I'm going to read the English. To my mother, by Mahmoud Darwish, or to my Palestine, I long for my mother's bread, my mother's coffee, her touch. Childhood memories grew up in me, day after day, and I love my life. Because if I die, I will be embarrassed from the tears of my mother. And if I come back one day, take me as a veil to your eyelashes. Cover my bones with the grass, blessed by your footsteps. Bind us together with the lock of your hair, with a thread that trails from the back of your dress. I might become immortal, become a god, if I touch the depths of your heart. If I come back, use me as wood to feed your fire, as the clothesline on the roof of your house. Without your blessing, I am too weak to stand. I am old, I am old. Give me back the star maps of childhood, so that I, along with the swallows, can chart the path back to your waiting nest. Thank you so much.
Oh, that's okay. I want to ask you, thank you. I know that when he died, there were thousands and thousands of people who came to his funeral. Do you want to mention that?
Yeah, he died and he was buried in Ramallah in Palestine, actually, not in his village. He only visited since 1917, 2005, to visit, for a funeral of his beloved, poet, and Emil Habibi, who died at that time. So he went once, and in 2008, he went the other time with a coffin, like he didn't say, and his mother was still alive. So the word that I said about the tears of his mother, and he will be embarrassed, and he wants to be close to his mother. But the mother here is the land and the ground, and that means that now he's in the ground, and he touches the dirt. The dirt touch his eyelashes. So that's what he meant by that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that? Oh. Thank you, Jeff. We have 3 more readers. And Regina's here. Are you ready? Regina Chattel is going to read in Polish. There. So there. And we just met as she's walking up. Thank you. Nice to meet you. Thanks for doing this.
Well, thank you for
as I
inviting
said,
me.
she was part of my multiple last-minute instruction emails and things like that. So you were all very gracious to put up with me.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I have a little bit of a story to tell you before I do the poetry, and that is the Hartford Public Library is one of my favorite places in the whole wide world, because when we came here from Poland, and I was in high school, we lived in one of those houses that on Street, the 3-story houses, and I have 2 brothers. So guess who got the middle room that everybody went through? It was me. It was supposed to be the dining room, so I couldn't study there very well. So right after school, I would come to the Hartford Public Library. And you know how I'm a teacher by profession, and teachers are the worst as far as censorship goes. They truly are the worst. They're always offending either the parents or the administration. It's a given. It's a given. So in the time that I was growing up and coming to the Hartford Public Library, that was the time when Henry Miller was writing his work. You may know him, right? Yeah. Well, I discovered Henry Miller, and I heard about one of his books. And so I knew every single stack in this library, and I couldn't find Henry Miller's work. And I thought, well, what kind of a library is this? So I went to the circulation desk and asked the librarian, and she looked at me and said, here you go. I just thought it was so terrific, and I wish we could do that in this day and age. Just take it out of there and go, here you go, read it, baby. So I did, and then I ended up buying all of his Sexus, Plexus, and Nexus books. It was just, I think I still have them. So anyway, I just love this library. But today's a very special event in my life of my husband David and me. It is our 39th wedding anniversary.
All right.
I know, it's like, holy Toledo, when did it happen? You know, it just went by just like that. So my husband is a man of few words. So I thought I'd read a poem and dedicate it to him. And the poem is by Maria Pawlikowska-Januszewska. I came to this country in 1961, so you'll have to forgive me if I stumble a little bit, even though I practiced. So anyway, the poem, I'll read it in Polish, taking the cue from the first reader before me, and read it first to you in Polish and then in English so David will understand. It's called Portrait. Usta twoje, ocean różowy, spojrzenie fala wzburzona, a twoje szerokie ramiona, pas ratunkowy. That's for the man of few words. And it says, portrait, your lips a rosy ocean. We both love the water. Your glance a swell of a wave, and your white shoulders a life belt that can save. Thank you, honey. I'll have more stories about the library if you want to know them. I can tell them to you afterwards.
Thank you so much, and thanks for sharing your anniversary with us.
My pleasure. We're going to the Polish National Home if anybody wants to go.
I hear they have great food over there.
They do.
Okay, maybe we'll change our minds and we'll go over there. Georgia really wanted to read. She was going to read, Georgia Stahulas, she was going to read in Greek, and she had never read a poem in Greek out loud. And I said, well, I'll give you my favorite Greek poet, and I'll give you my favorite poem from my favorite Greek poet. So she had been working on Candles by Cavafy, which is, I find, a most extraordinary poet, and this poem is one of my super, super favorites. And if you ever have time, I would recommend that you go on Google or any search engine and put Candles by Cavafy, and you're going to find 10 different versions of the poem, each one so different that you have no idea what the original really must have been like. When I went to Greece, it was really important for me to have somebody in Greece read Cavafy for me in his land, even though he was in Alexandria. He's a Greek poet. So Sophia, who was our tour guide, I'm standing in Delphi and surrounded by the history of Alexander and everybody. And I said, Sophia, would you read Cavafy for me? And she did, and I was like crying, you know. I mean, I was so emotional to actually hear him in his land. So anybody here reads Greek? Anybody? I would love to have had someone do it, but I just want to do one of the translations in honor of Georgia, because she really, really wanted to be here. And this one is translated by one of his relatives, John Cavafy. The days that are to come, they stand before us like a row of lighted little candles, brilliant and warm and lively little candles. The other days, the bygone lag behind a mournful row of candles that are quenched. A few of them, the nearest, smolder still, but most are cold and crooked and reduced. I dread to look on this, their shapes is grievous and grievous their remembrance of their light. In front, my lighted candles I behold. I dread to turn, lest I perceive, frightened, how fast the somber row is lengthening, how fast the extinguished candles multiply. That's my man, Kabafi. So I have to tell Georgia that her poem was read after all. I'm going to call Francesco Martini to join us now. And Francesco is married to a woman who got me into a lot of trouble. Her name is, not his fault, no, not his fault. Her name is Caroline Lumsden, and she's the editorial page editor of the Hartford Courant. And it was because of her that I became a columnist for the Courant, and for 9 years that she put up with me. And because of our relationship, I got to meet Francesco. And Francesco took my memoir writing class and became a writer, wrote his book after my memoir class. So
thank you.
Thank you. And so I have been following his writing attempts. It's just been wonderful to know that someone who took a class that I did just actually went ahead and wrote a book.
And you can go buy an Amazon account.
Right, on Amazon and get it. Would you like? I know that you're going to read your favorite Italian poet.
I'm from Florence, Italy, and I should read the piece of La Divina Commedia, but I'm not going to do it. I don't want to bore you with all, I know it's Easter now, but religious stuff and all this devil and so forth and so on. And I'm going to read you a poem, very short poems from a poet that was very, very dear to my father. I was born in this little village about 20 miles south of Florence during the war. And I remember when I was a small kid, like I'm an old man, you can. I think I was probably 5 or 6 years old. My father used to bring me in a very nice hill over the house that he faced this beautiful valley. And he used to, in Italy, we memorize a lot of poetry, Europe, you know. And he used to recitate, what do you say, this poem.
Yeah.
And it was, from a moment on, was always dear to me, this poem. So the poem is called L'Infinito, di Giacomo Leopardi. Giacomo Leopardi was a poet born in 1798. He was sort of the Italian version of Emily Dickinson, because he was sick, he was born sick, from a good family, never hardly left the house. He died very young, at 35 or 37, and he wrote mostly stay home. So I'm going to read the poem first in English and then in Italian. This lonely hill was always dear to me, and this edge row which cuts off the view of so much of the last horizon. But sitting here and gazing, I can see beyond in my mind's eye unending spaces, a superhuman silences, and depthless calm, till what I feel is almost fear. And when I hear the wind stir in these branches, I begin comparing the endless stillness with the noise, and the eternal come to mind, and the dead season, and the present living one. and how it sounds. So my mind sink in this immensity, and foundering is sweet in such a sea. In Italian is probably easier for me to read. Sempre caro mi fu quest'ermo colle e questa siepe che da tanta parte dell'ultimo orizzonte il guardo esclude, ma sedendo e rimirando interminati spazi di là da quella e sovrumani silenzi e profondissima quiete, io nel pensier mi fingo, ove per poco il cor non si spaura, e come il vento ho lo stormir tra queste piante, io quello infinito silenzio e questa voce vo comparando, e mi sovvien l'eterno e le morti stagioni, e la presente viva e il suon di lei. Così tra questa immensità s'annega il pensier mio e un naufragarmi dolce in questo mare.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Grazie, I can say that. Grazie, piacere che tu essere qui oggi.
Oh, and thank you for inviting me.
The last reader is going to be Maria Cristina Cuerda, and she's going to read in Spanish. And we are on time, I can't believe it. Hi, Maria Cristina. Okay. No, that's okay. You can just summarize a little bit.
Hi. This is a poem called Love Poem. It's by Roque Dalton, who's from El Salvador. It was written in 1974. I chose this poem because there was a very historic election in El Salvador recently, and the results were very hopeful for me. One of the things I don't like about this poem, Catherine, is that this is a poem written by a man about men's things. And I would have liked if it were a little more balanced. But I like to think of it as a nice counterbalance to the poems of Anne Sexton or Adrienne Rich, who wrote about things that maybe we sometimes weren't supposed to talk about in polite company, or things that were somehow shameful or unspeakable. And I love this poem because it talks about the forgotten people and breaks through the solitude that those people often feel. So it's Poema de Amor, Roque Dalton, from Las Historias Prohibidas del Pulgarcito. Los que ampliaron el canal de Panamá y fueron clasificados como Silver Roll y no como Golden Roll. Los que repararon la flota del Pacífico en las bases de California. Los que se pudrieron en las cárceles de Guatemala, México, Honduras, Nicaragua por ladrones, por contrabandistas, por estafadores, por hambrientos. Los siempre sospechosos de todo. Me permito remitirle al imperfecto por esquinero. Sospecho soy con el agravante de ser salvadoreño. Los que llenaron los bares y los burdeles de todos los puertos y las capitales de la zona, la Gruta Azul, el Calzoncito, Happy Land. Los sembradores de maíz en plena selva extranjera. Los reyes de la página roja, los que nunca sabe nadie de dónde son, los mejores artesanos del mundo, los que fueron cosidos a balazos al cruzar la frontera, los que murieron de paludismo, de las picadas del escorpión o la barba amarilla en el infierno de las bananeras, los que lloraron borrachos por el himno nacional bajo el ciclón del Pacífico o la nieve del norte, los arrimados, los mendigos, los marihuaneros, los guanacos hijos de la gran puta, los que apenitas pudieron regresar, los que tuvieron un poco más de suerte, los eternos indocumentados, los hácelo todo, los véndelo todo, los cómelo todo, los primeros en sacar el cuchillo, los tristes más tristes del mundo, mis compatriotas, mis hermanos.
That's a really perfect poem to end the reading. Roque Dalto, like many of the other poets that we have been hearing about today, was a very political poet, and he was in prison in El Salvador, and there was an earthquake while he was in prison. So one of the walls came off out of the prison, so he was able to escape. And he had a very colorful life and really, really wonderful poetry. One of my favorite has to do with how much money we spend on satellites and going to the moon, and how little money to educate the poor. It's called, I think, El pueblo es el satélite de la luna, something like that. And then he goes, the first satellite costs a lot, but the second costs more, and the third costs. So he goes on and on through all the different things that we do for space and forgetting about the Earth. Before I close, I'd like to read you a quote from Sam Hamill, who's a very famous poet, and he has Cooper Canyon in an anthology. He wrote, the anthology is called The Gift of Tongues. And he says they share in the gift of poetry, which works by being multiplied by many generous hands. Inspiration is transformed by the poet into a body of sound, which in turn is given away so that it may inspire and inform another, who in turn adds to the gift and gives it away again. So thank you for giving the gift today. Thank you so much. Thank you.